Welcome inside episode 493 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains, and the Senators' win streak is over before it really starts. Ottawa losing 2-0 at home to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but there is a silver lining that Sidney Crosby did not score his 500th goal against Ottawa.
Yeah, Sens fans were definitely happy. The 500 fans there were happy. Goal 500 did not happen for Sidney Crosby. And although it was a losing effort, Ross, couple bright spots. Matt Murray with an amazing game, over 40 saves against his old team. And Nick Paul had a very good game. And it's a contract year for him, Ross. So we're going to get into some of that discussion. And the Sens get a chance to get right back up on the saddle with back-to-back games this weekend.
Back-to-back afternoon games this weekend. We'll preview the Saturday matchup against the Boston Bruins, and to pick up where you left off, Nick Paul's contract is extremely interesting. We have some numbers that are being thrown out by insiders, so we'll get into that and discuss whether we think it's fair, fact, or fiction all the way around. All that plus I had boots on the ground to Ridley Greig's game last night. I'll tell you my experience there. And Jake Sanderson is registered and potentially ready to play tonight. All that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
For Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Friday, February 11th. And Pilsy, can't blame Matt Murray for that one.
Absolutely not. No, Matt Murray played a great game, and he continues his hot stretch here, Ross. 42 saves out of 43 shots. Only the Jeff Carter goal allowed, and that one, no chance anyone's putting that one on Murray. Bit of a bad turnover by our guy, Thomas Chabot there, and then
hasn't gotten the Sens Central bump yet.
Not yet. It's pending.
Monday.
Sens Central bump pending on Monday. So Tuesday's game up against the Blues, that should be a good one for him.
Yep.
But tough play there for Shabby. 2-on-1, Letang, Carter. I mean, guys with that kind of experience. And Ross, the one for the Sens there was Nikita Zaitsev. So anytime you draw that play up on paper, likely going to result in a goal. So that was the game winner, and the Sens, the back-to-back games, I think, was tough on them. They looked very flat in the third period, unfortunately, and they weren't able to muster up too many grade A chances.
Yeah, it seemed like a team that was playing its third game in 4 nights, but I mentioned last time in the postcast, too, there's no excuses down the stretch because they're going to have to do this every week. There's no let-up in the schedule now from the All-Star break all the way through till game 82. Teams are just going to have to learn how to play with it. And I thought DJ Smith on Monday and Tuesday did a fantastic job of getting everyone involved. But as you saw, the ice time's a lot more slanted in last night's game. Makes sense as Jeff Carter's goal happened in the second period. So for the second half of that game, you're trying to chase. You're trying to get back. You're trying to at least do something against another backup goalie, Pills. It was Casey DeSmith in goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And frankly, I don't think they tested him enough.
Yeah, they only had a couple big chances. Like the best play of the game, Ross, was Nick Paul. Like, how much can we say about this guy? An amazing effort on the penalty kill. Hustles to clear the puck out, and then doesn't just, on the PK, often guys clear the puck out and like, sweet, I can hop off for a change now. No, he follows the puck, sees Gambrell racing up the middle, dives, knocks it with his stick to Gambrell. Now, Gambrell, his only goal all year was a shorthanded breakaway, so you're feeling a little bit good, but also he's not exactly an offensive guy, so he does a little deke. DeSmith reads it all the way, and that's that. But excellent play by Nick Paul. And then later, only a couple minutes later, Ross, Nick Paul, Formanton finds him in the middle. He gets a partial break, and he does a nice move. He does the old stop with his skates, and then tries to go backhand, forehand on DeSmith. But again, you got to credit DeSmith. He's been having a tough year, but he was dead on tonight. Like, no rebounds, not falling for anything the Sens threw at his way. So he deserves that shutout for sure, and he's a big part of why the Pittsburgh Penguins got that win.
So the Penguins win the season series 2-1. Hate to see that. And hey, well, the Senators got their lone win in November against Pittsburgh. So maybe you can hold on as a glimmer of hope from that one. But they've got a couple more tough tests. I mentioned in the intro, we're going to preview the Boston game a little later on. We got Ridley Greig quick. We got Jake Sanderson stories. We got Nick Paul debates to have. But I want to get back into this game a little bit deeper here. Where did you think it went wrong? Like when you're sitting there, you're watching it. At what point were you like, damn, the Sens really don't have it right now? Is it at the start of the game, or did you continue to hold on maybe until that Jeff Carter goal?
It was the third period, Ross. Like the Sens, they weren't dominating by any sense, but they were hanging on with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Right.
They had those couple chances. Like I said, really, like other than the Carter goal, Carter had a nice breakaway too on the penalty kill for the Penguins, and Matt Murray, perfect read, stretches out, stuffs him with the pad, doesn't let him squeeze that one in. But really, the Sens were right there this whole time, but the third period, you could tell the legs were gone, and they just weren't able to muster up anything. Timmy had a chance at the end of the game, goalie pulled, but Crosby sacrifices the body and gets a perfect block shot, which that might have been a TSN turning point as well. There's about 20 seconds left in the game there. Timmy had a great chance to finish or at least tie it up. So I think once the third period came and you saw they didn't have their legs with them, you knew Pittsburgh was just going to shut the door and hold things down here.
The third period, my goodness. 19 shots for the Pittsburgh Penguins, only 5 for the Ottawa Senators. How rare is this? The losing goalie in a 2-0 shutout loss. Now, albeit the empty net goal sealed it. Matt Murray was the first star in this game. Casey
well
deserved second.
Too.
Well, even though the Smith had the shutout, he's the second star. But I'm looking just through the box score here, Pilsy. And when your top line, now I know Gaudette was pulled off the top line, although his ice time was elevated compared to what it had been in the last 2 games by almost 2 minutes. Sanford gets moved up on that line as well. But even if I'm counting, so I'm giving them an extra guy on that top line. 4 of them. Tkachuk, Stützle, Gaudette, and Sanford. Guess how many shots they combined for?
Not a whole lot. The top line wasn't great here. I'm going to say 2? I was going to say 5. Damn.
2 shots on goal. A very rare occasion. Brady Tkachuk, 1 shot on goal.
Yeah.
Zach Sanford, 1 shot on goal. So I added Sanford so I could make it multiple. Otherwise, 1 shot. None for Timmy. None for Gaudette. The kid's a shooter. We need you to shoot the puck. So, I mean, not to single out guys again, but this top line just had to be better. The best line was easily, and I caught some of the first period before going to the game that we'll get to a little bit later. I've caught up. I watched the game this morning, but that being said, the top line was Brown, Formanton, and sorry, I'm blanking on the centerman right now on that line. It was Nick Paul, right?
Nick Paul.
Exactly. So Nick Paul, 4 shots on goal. Alex Formanton, 5 shots on goal. Like just the 2 of them had like 35% of the entire team's shots. So that's just not a recipe for success. When they're being your secondary scoring, then you're looking at a lot better. So I have trouble really being too hard on them, knowing that, again, there's Drake Batherson, there's Josh Norris just sitting out on the sidelines. A lot of teams have to be tested by depth, though, and we're going to see a team come into Ottawa on Saturday, tomorrow, without their 2 top players. So there's no excuses in the National Hockey League, but it was certainly a flat effort. So it's not excuses. It's just kind of trying to pinpoint why it was so flat, especially after 2 emotional big wins at home coming off the All-Star break.
Yeah, and it's disappointing to see a flat effort like this, Ross, but you're looking at it, we can't be that disappointed with a 2-0 loss here, right? Like, this could have been a lot worse with how badly the Penguins outshot the Sens.
Yeah.
Matt Murray makes a big difference, like you mentioned, first star here. So, you know, if you're going to have a disappointing loss up against a good team, this one isn't that bad, really. So I'm not too upset. I'm not too disappointed. These are going to happen. We were flying high with back-to-back wins. So it was about time we come down a little. So that's fair. Yeah.
Crashing down to earth for the Ottawa Senators with a 2-0 loss. And I'm a little more upset than you then, just because I absolutely despise the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's brutal to lose to the Penguins, that's for sure. And Ross, now your magical hopes of saying the P word in context on Monday is gone. As you said, they needed to win. this game and both games on the weekend. So yeah, that's tough. And it would have been nice to get the win for Murray too.
I
Like
know.
he's well deserving of it. His first game up against the Penguins, but that's the way she goes.
Hey, at least he played well. Because remember, I was saying
Definitely.
the confidence could just get shattered. All the buildup. And now, look at him. This guy's got a .920 save percentage on the season.
On the season? Oh my God.
The same Matt Murray that we watched in November struggle to stop anything.
Yeah.
This guy he's been unbelievable since January 2nd. Unbelievable.
It's wild that he was on waivers, eh? We talked about it a little earlier, Ross. Like, imagine if a team like Buffalo or New Jersey was just like, hey, we don't have a goalie. Here's a guy with pedigree. We can get him for free. Let's just scoop him up while he's down low. I mean, I don't think anyone was going to do that because the contract looked absolutely atrocious with his stats, but he's bounced back. And now I don't think there's that much of a problem with his contract. Sure, he's still overpaid for sure, but it's not an anchor on this team's salary cap. Now, I don't think all the people that were saying you got to buy out Murray, I wonder what they think now.
Oh my God, are you Guy Boucher? I wonder what people think of the trade now.
What do you think of the trade now?
with Burrows? Hey, Matt Murray does have a .920 save percentage, which is tied with Sergei Bobrovsky, who has 4 losses in regulation.
And he's making $10 million.
4 losses in regulation for Sergei Bobrovsky in 32 games. And he has the same save percentage as Matt Murray. Jack Campbell, who people want to build a shrine for in Toronto, has a .921 save percentage. So Matt Murray, with his recent stretch, his last 8 games, has catapulted himself into the top 25 in save percentage this year. And it would be even higher if I put a more filter on, because the guys who's in first, third, fifth, sixth, they've all played 5 or less games. So he has put himself into a category with the top echelon of goalies in the league. It's just so tough that this happened right when they lost their scoring punch. Why couldn't we have these together?
Honestly, yeah, and that's the thing. But at least now, what was the story for the last 2 years, Ross? It was the goaltending. Like, the players couldn't do anything because they're chasing every single game. But now, that's not an excuse. That's not a storyline. There's no excuse for that. So, like you said, the top guys, sure, you have some sympathy that Drake and Josh aren't there, but still, Brady and Timmy need to figure out a way to produce here, especially when the secondary scoring is being relied upon so much here. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Sens fare throughout this stretch.
But now the storyline shifts from goaltending to the pending trade deadline. March 21st is the last day GMs can mix and match and try to figure out what chemistry will boost their team. But at the same time, you have to weigh the long-term probability of success. Now, Nick Paul is the Sens' biggest UFA. They've got some RFAs to sign as well, but a decision must be made because teams are calling. As you know, when Nick Paul's name comes out and there's a contending team, what a great addition to a top 9 around the league. But is it better for the Senators to keep him? Pilsy and I will discuss numbers and what might have already been offered right after a word from our friends at Built Bar, because Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They come in so many amazing flavors as well, 16 of them. And that's why we recommend the mixed box of Built Bars when you go to their website, builtbar.com. It's that easy. And when you do go and click on the mixed box, just use our promo code. It's that easy. Locked15 gets you 15% off your next order. Built Bars are great for the health-conscious guy or girl. You can lose or maintain weight while indulging in what is a delicious treat. The bars are low in calorie, low in sugar, high in protein, and high in fiber. A nutritional grand slam. You got to try it for yourself. Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order at BuiltBar.com. All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators fall 2-0. The final score against the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Ottawa Senators record now sits at 16, 23, and 4. And, well, they didn't jump those 2 teams who we thought they might be able to yesterday in the standings. All that to say, the Sens' next matchup is tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern against the Boston Bruins. We'll save that for a little bit later on. We should mention, though, quickly that Jake Sanderson might play tonight in this part of the world. We're not going to get lost in the time vortex. Although somebody told us yesterday, all of China is one time zone. That was enough to put me in a mental pretzel.
That's a fact that I told you. Like, that was when I learned that. It's absolutely insane to think of. I mean, no matter what point in China you're at, it's the same time. Ross, we could successfully do a podcast in China without missing or messing up times like that. What a blessing that would be for you, eh?
Canada has what, 6 time zones if you're including Newfoundland?
Too many, probably 6.
Pacific, Mountain, Central, Eastern, Atlantic, Newfoundland.
Nice. Yeah.
Great. Well, see, and now China.
Look at our geography. Look at us go.
There you go. Getting lost in time zones. But Jake Sanderson seems like he's not going to be jet lag going from Pacific time zone to Chinese time because he's already been registered. It looks like he's going to play. He was on the ice at practice. Stefan Wino from the Associated Press had an article. He's been reading the Bible while he was in Los Angeles. He's ready to go. He's going to allow faith to lead him to a silver medal.
Hey, you just need a little faith sometimes, but faith can only get you so far.
Don't you need a little faith? I don't even know if that's the beat of the song, but the beat of my Olympic interest has peaked with Jake Sanderson. And what better way to welcome him to the tournament? Not against Team China, as Team USA didn't really need him for that opening game. But Canada, USA, Owen Power, Jake Sanderson, what a matchup. I need that tonight. Not only, how about Owen Power against the guy who went the pick right after, Matty Beniers on Team USA as well. And then Mason McTavish. So the top 3 picks of the 2021 draft.
Wow.
And the 5th overall pick, Kent Johnson. So there's a lot of talent out there, young talent on the ice, but then a few leaders as well. Eric Stahl with an assist in his Team Canada debut. So I'm officially in on the Olympics now that Jake Sanderson, and use the hashtag USensA, and then just throw the flag on the end there. We had some fun with that at the World Juniors last year as well. So Jake Sanderson hopefully makes an impact right away. But again, this guy just went through 25 time zones. So we'll give him a little bit of a breather as well. But that's great for Sens prospects news as well. We'll save again Ridley Greig for the other side. But Nick Paul, I'm so curious to get your opinion on this because Frank Saravalli reported the Senators have offered him a contract at $2 million per for the next 3 years. And that was not enough to get him to sign. What do you think would be enough if that isn't?
Well, here's the thing, Ross. Like, if you're Nick Paul, you're finally a UFA, right? Finally, the power is in your hands. If he was an RFA, I think he signs that deal real quick because, I mean, that's a nice term. Decent dollar amount, decent raise, right? He's getting $700K more than he was before. But now you're Nick Paul, and you can be like, if I go to the open market, there's a lot of contending teams that would pay more than $2 million to have me as a third line player because he's a guy, if he's in your bottom 6, you could go a long way in the playoff with a guy like Nick Paul. So I think he's understanding his value on the market is worth much more than that. So if I'm Nick Paul, I turn down that deal as well. Now, if you're the Senators, I think you probably need to bump that up to about 2.5 to make it work if you're doing a 3-year deal. And I think that gets it done for both sides. Like, definitely, you cannot pay a guy like Nick Paul more than $3 million, right? Otherwise, you end up turning into the Vancouver Canucks who paid Beagle, Roussel, so many of these bottom 6 guys over $3 million and gave them term too. And then they had to end up dumping them to Arizona because it just wasn't going to work out, right? When time came that Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, all these guys need big new contracts. You can't afford to have that. So personally, if you ask me, I think the Senators, they went in with a low offer. Nick Paul said, hey, that's not where I'm at. I think if they bumped it up to 2.5 for 3 years, you could get it done.
And you think they should?
I think they should. Absolutely. Yeah. For people that are saying trade Nick Paul or let him walk or whatever, I think that's a terrible idea because we talked about this over and over. Then you're just like, the second he's gone, you're like, okay, how do we acquire a Nick Paul type player now? Well, you just had one. Yeah. And you had one that's been loyal to you. He's been through the system, like 5 straight seasons, Ross, of up and down through Belleville. And
Binghamton.
Even Bingo. Even friggin' Bingo. He's the guy now. He's the longest guy in this franchise now, right?
Yeah, longest serving member of the organization now that Marcus Hogberg's gone.
And look at the consistency. The last 2 seasons, Ross, 56 games, 20 points. 56 games, 20 points. Now he's at 42 games and 14 points. So you know what you're going to get from this guy offensively, and you know he does so much more than just put up points. I love Nick Paul's shot. He's one of those guys that if he decides to come down the wing and rip it, he can beat goalies cleanly. We've seen it over and over. We've seen it in Belleville, Ross. So I really want the Sens to make a push to keep this guy, and I think he's a big part of the culture here. Like
he
we
wears
said,
a letter.
Yeah, exactly. And he's been around, and if anyone is going to argue that Nick Paul should stay an Ottawa Senator, I bet DJ Smith is banging on the table telling Pierre, hey, we got to keep this guy around.
The disciple, right?
The disciple, yes.
So you can't pump a guy's tires and then not pucker up when it's time to pay, right? Like they offered him the Michael Del Zotto contract, pretty much, with 1 year added on. Yeah. No, that's not enough to get it done. Now, the Senators have had a history of overpaying for these tweener, maybe, he's a 20, 25-point guy. Like, he's not going to come in and score 40 points next
30 year. Points at the most, probably, yeah.
Right, but he does have these other intangibles. However, if you're the Senators, remember the Zach Smith deal?
Yeah.
However, he scored 25 goals to get it. That being said, you're still looking to move it before it's over. How about the Colin Greening contract? 3 years at 2.65. Now, his numbers were a little bit inflated playing with Jason Spetz at the time. But then he signs the contract. Next thing you know, he's on a line with Zach Smith and Chris Neal. And then he's looking pretty overpaid down there. But at that point, the cap was only $62 million. So now the cap's gone up $20 million. The difference between $500,000, $750,000, it's not going to make or break anything when they say, oh, we have all these other young players to sign. No, this is a depth player, and you see depth pieces on every single team in the league that are making more than $2 million. Zach Sanford's making $2 million this year.
Yep.
So they thought they could just transfer that over to Nick Paul. Hell, not even, because Nick Paul is making 1.3, I believe, right now. So I'm not saying you have to move all of Zach Sanford's money over. I think that my cap, and from what it sounds like, both sides want a 3-year deal.
Yep.
That seems like a good term for both sides.
I think that's what everyone wants, right? Like, I don't think the fans want longer or shorter either.
Right. I would bump it up by an extra $2 million over the course of the 3 years. So I don't know exactly what that works out, but like a 3-year, $8 million contract. So looking like around 2.75. Yep. Even that, I think it's super reasonable for Nick Paul, a guy who literally does it all.
Definitely.
I mean, it rhymes. It's got to be true.
Now, if you're Nick Paul, Ross, do you think your best chance to succeed is in Ottawa?
I think that he's very comfortable here. I know that his girlfriend works at Chio as well, so that's
right.
pretty geographically, like, there's no Chios everywhere. Ottawa's a good spot for him to stay in her profession. We saw that with Jacob Trouba wanting for his significant other to have more opportunities, so he went to a market where that was available. They've got the house there. Shabby told us that he lives here full time. They've got a little crew going, so I think that all the start, and he's from Toronto, so that way you stay close to home in that sense. Easy to go home during the off season, and I think there's a lot of stars that align. He's not going to wear an A anywhere else, I don't think. No. Right? So he's got that kind of built-in leadership role here that I think he really takes a lot of pride in. Takes pride in the community, points by Paul. Great example of that.
Absolutely.
So there's just so many reasons why he's important to keep around. Now, if he's asking for over $3 million on average, then best of luck to you, and I hope he gets it. But if it's anything under 3 at the front of the number, they have to get this done on a 3-year deal.
Yep, I'm with you. And if conversations start going, Nick Paul and his agent are like, we think we can get more than 3 on the market, then I do think you look at trading him, because you can't have that happening to your cap. Like, Timmy's coming up here, Norris is coming up here, Formanton is coming up here, Sanderson, right? Like, there's so many guys that are going to need to get paid. You're going to have to let that one go. I don't want that to happen. I think Nick Paul is a big part of this. And think of the chemistry he has with Connor Brown. Like, how you're not going to find that everywhere. You're not going to find a coach that believes in you, that one night you're playing left wing on the 4th line and the next night you're playing center on the 2nd line up against other teams' top players. So I really think it makes a lot of sense for Nick Paul to stay. I hope they can get a deal done here, but I think they're going to have to get it done soon, because if they don't, then they need to look at trading him, because you can't. The worst thing is you cannot let Nick Paul walk for nothing.
Yeah, especially those are the type of players that get overpaid for at the deadline in terms of assets going back to their other
especially
teams.
on an affordable contract, right? Like there's not a lot of guys that teams want to add that are making $1.3 million.
Yes, well said. And he's also an example setter, or a leadership. He sets the example in training camp, always winning the fitness test and a whole host of things. So let's hope that a deal gets done here, Pilsy. Before we go to a preview of the game and boots on the ground report for Ridley, Greg, Pilsy, you got a word from our friends at betonline.net.
Ross, Gesundheit. Good job on the mute button there. That's a pro right there. Ross, I am so excited. I'm going to be dialed in to my betonline.net account this weekend. If you guys haven't been following along, at the start of the season, I know we're getting off track here, but I put a $10 bet for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl to pay $1,000. It was 100-1 odds. Every dollar in there would pay $100 if you catch my drift. This would make up for months of failed parlays and more. I could do failed parlays for years if this one pays out. So I'm very excited for that. And this is just an example of how you can get off the sidelines and get into the action. And the best place to do that is betonline.net, where the game starts. It's the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Senators podcast. And we think you guys are going to love it too. You can head on there. Don't just do simple money line bets. You can bet the spread, the over, the under, props. It's Super Bowl weekend, guys. This is when you have some fun, mix it up. What color is the Gatorade going to be? What's the coin flip going to be? Tails never fails. Don't forget that. So there's so many fun things that you can get in on the action at. And the only place we want you doing that is betonline.net. So guys, check it out today. betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, Pilsy. So it's a busy weekend, not only in the NFL with Super Bowl Sunday, but the Ottawa Senators have back-to-back afternoon games. Feel the excitement. And I don't think they're going to change a damn thing to the lineup going into that one. Do you?
Yeah, probably not. Although I could see maybe mixing Parker Kelly in here with teams like Boston and Washington. They're a little more physical. So maybe swap out a guy like Gaudette or Ennis just to try to get a little more oomph, a little more grit on your bottom line there. And especially, like we said, the Sens looked a little flat in that third period. So some of these guys may be tired and you just need a break. But other than that, yeah, I think we're going to see a very similar lineup.
Yeah, and if you're looking at who could come out, Mark Haslick played the least, only guy under 10 minutes last night, but he just brings some intangibles. Like still had 4 hits and 2 blocks in his limited ice time last night. So I don't know if it'd be him, if it would be Ennis.
No, it won't be Kaslick, Ross, because DJ Smith has a lot of trust in him. He was putting Kaslick out there on the draws up against Crosby in the defensive zone. Like, that's huge, especially for a team that struggles in the faceoff dot. I'd be very surprised if Kaslick is the odd man out.
Yeah, well, stay tuned on Twitter at Sens Central. We'll let you know when the lineup is released for tomorrow's game. Now, we've taken a guess at the Boston Bruins lineup, and mostly we just want to bring this up to show you that not only the Sens are without their top 2 scorers on their roster, right? The Sens are without Baston and Norris. Well, the Boston Bruins are missing Patrice Bergeron due to injury, and Brad Marchand has just been suspended 6 games. So the Sens won't see him this Saturday, and they won't see him next Saturday either. So back-to-back, Sens kind of getting lucky there, just with the timing of all that. Maybe that's to make up for his suspension back in the day on Mark Borowiecki, when I believe he got 2 or 3 games for that, but none of them, of course, against Ottawa. So now the punishment a long time ago, now he's going to have to serve his crime about 6 years later against the Senators. So this will be an interesting matchup because the Bruins haven't been winning a whole lot. They're holding on to the bottom wild card spot right now in the Eastern Conference, but they've got such a big lead. It seems like it's all good, but at the same time, man, they got to start winning. Only 4 wins in their last 10 games.
And Ross, their last game, they lost to the Hurricanes 6-0.
The same Hurricanes that the Sens beat?
The same Hurricanes, Ross. And that just goes to show you, like, not only are those guys such a big part on the ice, obviously, but they're the culture of this team. So you take Bergeron and Marchand out and Tuukka Rask, and the whole culture of this team has changed. Like, sure, Pasternak is a long-term guy, McAvoy, Carlo, but other than that, a lot of these guys are acquisitions, right? Like you're looking at Smith, Coyle, Holla, Foligno, Lazar, like all these guys were brought in, Mike Riley, like, so it's a very different locker room now. And the Sens need to take advantage of that. It's not very often you get to go up against the Boston Bruins without a Tuukka Rask, Patrice Bergeron, Zdeno Chara, no Krejci also. Obviously, he hasn't been there all year, but that's a big part of their culture too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so the Sens are definitely going to have a chance here. My lookout player, Ross, is going to be Taylor Hall. He's going to have to step up big time. He had 4 points in his last 3 games. If the Bruins are going to have any chance of winning, him and Pasternak are going to be a big part of it, I think.
Well, not only that, I mean, fair enough. You're completely right. But I got to look at Nick Foligno, who was brought in there as an offseason acquisition. Like, what happened to Nick Foligno?
You know how the Leafs rebuilt Galchenyuk? Yeah. Well, they broke Nick Foligno.
They completely broke him. Ever since his main highlight there was wearing a hat in a press conference. And we like Nick Foligno, man.
Oh, yeah, love him.
350 games for the Ottawa Senators. That's impressive. Since being traded from Columbus, Pilsy, in 35 games, plus, how many playoff games? 7. Oh, right. The Leafs didn't make it out of the first round. No, he only played 4 games, though, in that series due to injury. So in 39 games since being traded from Columbus, Pilsy, he has 1 goal. 1 goal in 39 games for Nick Foligno. And he's making $3.8 million. Talk about overpaying
for a couple of years, too. And the Leafs paid a first-round draft pick to get him.
Yikes.
Oh.
Yikes, man. We're cheering for him when he's not playing the Sens because he's a great guy. Yep. Senators draft pick. He was the Senators draft pick the year before, the year they lost Buffalo, and then they obviously go on the run to the Cup final the next season. But man, it's tough to see the fall of Nick Foligno. So hopefully he doesn't figure it out against Ottawa, but he does figure it out sooner rather than later because it's got to be tough right now. Like he got an assist a couple of games ago. Actually, 3 of his 5 points this season have come in the last 10 games. So, hey, hopefully it's not against Ottawa, but I need to be looking out for him because at some point you have to think that he's going to contribute something offensively.
Yeah, and I mean, he's getting elevated opportunities now, right, with no Marchand, no Bergeron. So it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Make sure you're locked on Senators wherever you download your podcasts, including on YouTube. We appreciate everyone subscribing there. The postcast stays undefeated in terms of us getting it up. A couple technical difficulties last night.
Yeah, I am not a bus driver. That's for sure.
We are working through it. It was fun for me hopping on in the car. I was at the Brandon Wheat Kings Winnipeg Ice game where the Winnipeg Ice won 6-2 and all eyes. I had ISOCAM eyes, I should say, on Ridley Greig each and every shift. The stat line, maybe not the best for him. -2, 4 penalty minutes if you're just looking at the WHL.ca. However, this guy is the most entertaining player I think I've ever watched. And not only because he razzled and dazzled in front of us in the NHL preseason, but this guy never takes a shift off and is so much fun to watch.
Yeah, we love the Riddler, that's for sure. He's definitely our brand of hockey. He's Ottawa Senators brand of hockey, that's for sure. And look, Ross, that's one of the guys where, again, we don't want Nick Paul to move on, but if Nick Paul did move on, you feel a little better about your middle 6 because Ridley Greig is a guy that can provide a lot of those intangibles with some more grit and a little more offensive touch. So it's okay. Like they got guys that can replace him if need be.
Right. I guess the only question is, what do you do with Ridley Greig? Because I think he's bulking up a little bit. Now, he's played center the entire... I'm a little upset that Brandon didn't trade him at the deadline. I thought Brandon was a little bit better than they were. Now, Winnipeg is the number 1 ranked team in the entire CHL, WHL, OHL, Quebec League. They are a complete wagon. And if you guys are interested in draft eligibles, I'll touch on a few of them a little bit later. But, like, the Winnipeg Ice dominated this game. Like, it was 3-0 7 minutes into the game, and then they just kind of cruised from there. But Ridley Greig, every time a guy, if he comes in on a forecheck and the defenseman moves it, he doesn't just fly by. He makes sure to get a little stick on a guy. And it turns out this is the team that Ridley Greig launched the dude's stick 30 feet in the air on, where he just went up behind him.
Just a little stick lift.
And that guy is Connor McLennan, who ended up getting a hat trick in the game, but he was giving it to Ridley whenever he could. The amount of times where Ridley would make a hit and he threw himself at the boards a few times, like missed the hit, but like he has one speed he plays out there, and it is extremely fast. At least 3 times he made a hit, and everyone on Winnipeg was looking at the refs like, come on, like, what the hell? He can't do that.
Yeah.
Every single shift he was mixing it up, doing something, and guys would chirp him, and he doesn't even look at them. He just like keeps on doing what he's doing, doesn't even look. So I had a huge laugh out of that, and I said he took 2 penalties. He drew 2 penalties as well. So if anyone wants to say, oh, that's bad discipline, well, he's drawing them just as much as he's taking them. So no goals, no assists, but an entertaining effort nonetheless for Ridley Greig last night.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to get more Ridley Greig viewings. That's for sure. And I'm jealous he's in your backyard there.
Yeah, no question. Battle of Manitoba. We'll see a few more of them. But I did say I'd mention a couple of the draft eligibles. Man, if the Sens could get their hands on either Matthew Savoy, or Connor Geekie, they could do a lot worse than those 2 guys. Like, especially, I think I prefer Geekie, but I know a lot of scouts think Savoy's the guy. Savoy's like a 5'9", shifty winger. Say he plays center, but he does a lot of his work off the wall.
Right.
He can play, man, for sure. He had 1-1 last night. He was a +4, 10 for 16 in the faceoff circle, whereas Geekie had 7 shots on goal, only the 1 assist, but he was 8 for 10 in the dot. Geekie's 6'4", 205, and he's 17
that sounds
years old.
better.
Yeah, so it's with these guys, we'll see how deep they can go on a bit of a run here, but they had the 1st and 2nd overall pick in the WHL draft a couple of years, and these were the 2 gems they got. So, hey, it'll be fun to watch them down the stretch, and I imagine for just a moment what Ridley Greig would look like on that team, and I got a little too excited. But, hey, it was awesome to be back in a building. It was their first game back with fans, and hopefully the Sens follow suit soon. And once they got the full building back, Pilsy, we're going to have to plan a trip to Ottawa.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, hey, we still got to catch up with Stuart Sabrin. He was the winner of our 1,000 subscriber contest, or whatever you want to call it, that we're going to go to a game with him. So don't think we forgot about that, Stuart.
No, absolutely have not. And, hey, maybe when we get to 2,000, we'll put out another little contest. The Sens fans have been too great here getting us up and at it. We've got a way big boost. Now, I think that might be because people want our interview on Monday. So, Pilsy, I'll let you tease it because clearly I've done it enough.
Yeah. So we were supposed to not tease this interview and hold it for a 500th episode. Ross, I think you made it 45 minutes after we recorded.
Not even.
I mean, it was great that thanks for everyone that subscribed and helped us get to our 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. That was massive. You guys did that. So in turn, we give you the Shabbat interview early. And it's hilarious because Shabbat, we told him that it was our 500th episode. And he ends the interview saying, congrats on episode 500, guys. But it's actually going to be 494 at the time. But still works. But this was a blast to talk to Tom Shabbat. And he gave us a lot of time. We had a lot of good laughs. He gave us some dirt on JBD, as you heard in the JBD interview. So definitely such a good chat with Thomas Shabbat. And you guys are going to love it on Monday.
And he's going to be sitting at 299 games when we release this. Already 4th among Senators defensemen in franchise history in points. A little trivia, and everyone could play this in their car, at home, wherever you listen to the show. Who are 1, 2, and 3? Let's see if you can get them in order, Pilsy. Highest scoring defenseman in Sens history.
Carlson.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Redden.
Yep. So Carlson is 3rd all time in franchise history in scoring. Wade Redden is 5th. And no, you're wrong. It is not Chara. Chara's not played just enough. He is at 146 points. Shabbat's at 174. So he's next. If it wasn't Shabbat, he would be next.
I can't get that missing guy.
I think you should be able to. Think longevity.
Phillips?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go. I mean, when you play 1,179 games, Pilsy.
Yeah, he doesn't put up a whole lot of points, though, so I thought maybe he wouldn't quite make it. But, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like Phillips is just ahead of Kyle Turris on the all-time list. Phillips has 288 points. Kyle Turris has 274.
What's the games played?
407 versus 1179. So only a good like 550 extra games for him. And
wow.
No, but he had some big goals in his career as well. The one arm salute, you miss that when you think of Chris Phillips, the OG Big Rig, a nickname that's just getting thrown out there way too often. Speaking of big rigs and big hitters, do you see Nikita Zadorov's hit last night on Andre Cachet? I liked what our boy Laleem's Martian said. He goes, this is a glimpse into the future with Tyler Clevin in the NHL.
Honestly, yeah, Leafs fans get used to that.
Oh my God, that was an enormous, and there's nothing he could have done differently. People are saying contact the head. He's 6'5".
That's a size difference thing, yeah.
The guy who he hit 5'10". No offense to Andre Cachet, but like that was a bit of a suicide pass from his defenseman.
Yep.
Zadorov didn't even like skate into it. He was just standing his ground, and he just put his shoulder into him, and that was menacing.
Yep.
Now we're gonna be I have a feeling that in 2-3 years, Pillsy, we're gonna be having a lot of debates standing up for the K train and saying, no, that was clean. And we're gonna have a lot of people telling us that he should be kicked off the tour, Doug.
Yeah, well, I think the K train and I think Ridley Greig, we may have to have some of those conversations too. But those are our guys, so we're going to stand behind them.
100%. And with Ridley, like you just have to smirk like he would in that situation, man. He was sitting in the box with like 3 minutes left in the game. It got kind of like blowout gong show type hockey at the end. Old WHL hockey, gotta love it,
Love it.
And Ridley was in the box, and again, like people are chirping him on his way to the box. He's just like smiling, not even looking at anybody. Yeah. I was gonna go take a picture of him in the box. It's like, look, we're in Ridley Greig's home office.
In his office, yeah.
But if they were up 6-2, I might have, but down 6-2, I didn't want to be that guy. So I let him off the hook there. But absolute beauty. The Sens building the most likable and equally least likable team, potentially of all time. Hopefully Tyler Boucher gets back in the lineup here because he's got some developing to do as well. But I think that's about it for the weekend. We got to save some for Monday because we're fired up. We got 2 Senators games, and we'll preview Sunday's game at Washington in the postcast tomorrow. So stay tuned for the postcast tomorrow after the Senators host the Boston Bruins. And make sure you're locked on Senators. Subscribe to the podcast, like it, comment. We do appreciate all the interaction. Sens fans, stay undefeated, especially on Twitter at Sens Central and lockedon.senators on Instagram. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. Have a great weekend, Sens fans. We'll chat on Monday with Senators franchise defenseman Thomas Chabot. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.